begin, I have one question for you. Can you think of a commodity for whose demand fell when the family income increased? Like you stopped demanding it, or your demand actually reduced for it. If there is, and if you can think of one, just write down in the comments below. So, hello everyone, welcome to Concept Battles. Now, before we move forward with our concepts, that is your income elasticity, cross price elasticity, and the elasticity of substitution, I want you to solve these three questions that will be displayed on your screens, and we'll discuss the answers at the end of the video. So your time starts now. Now, the first thing that we need to discuss today is the income elasticity. Now, what do we mean by income elasticity? Now, it measures the responsiveness of the change in your quantity demanded due to change in income. Now, so in other words, that how well will your quantity demanded respond when the income levels actually change? And it is given by the formula, the proportionate change in quantity upon proportionate change in your income. Now here, a very important aspect is that now the goods are divided into two separate categories. One is your normal goods, that is for whose income elasticity is positive or greater than 0, implying that when your income increases, the quantity demanded of it also increases. But on the other hand, we have inferior goods whose income elasticity is negative or is less than 0, implying that when your income increases, the quantity demanded of it falls. Okay, so one thing that we can note here is that this 0 plays a very important role. It will actually tell you, the value 0 will tell you whether your good is a normal good or an inferior good. So it creates a line between that normal and inferior good. Okay. On the other hand, the normal goods too are segregated into two further categories. First is your luxury, second is your necessities. Necessities implying the basic things that you need. For example, you're a student, you need paper and pen for your consumption, right? That's a basic necessity for reading, for studying, right? Pen and papers are basic necessities of it. But then luxury comes on to whether you need an ink pen, Mont Blanc, right? So that is a luxury. Whether you need an ink pen for your studying, I think not. So if the elasticity of income is between 0 and 1, that means your good is a necessity good. On the other hand, if your income elasticity is greater than 1, that means your good is a luxury good. Okay, so the things that we need to remember: 0. Value above 0 would imply that the good is a normal good. Value below 0 would imply the good is an inferior good, right? Value between 0 and 1 would imply a good is a necessity, and the value more than 1 would imply that the good is a luxury. So that is your income elasticity. But a very important thing here is the concept of your angel curve. Just like demand curve that shows the relationship between price and quantity demanded, the angel curve actually shows the relationship between your income and your quantity demanded. Okay, so how is it graphically represented? Now, one thing we know is that income elasticity greater than 0 means there is a positive relationship between income and quantity. So the curve will definitely be upward sloping. But what will be the slope of it will be determined by the value of the income elasticity. So in case of your necessities, the income elasticity, which is between 0 and 1, it will have a steeper angel curve. How? Because even if your income increases considerably, the change in quantity would be less than the change in income. Okay, so you might start writing more, right? If your income increases, you might start consuming more pens, but how much can you write, right? So that's the thing. For luxuries, in the case of luxuries where income elasticity is greater than 1, so even a small change in income, right, would bring about a larger change in your quantity demanded. Okay, and lastly, in the case of your inferior goods, right, so we know that income elasticity is less than 0, that is, it is negative, and the curve will be downward sloping. Hence, for inferior goods, angel curve is a downward sloping curve. Okay. Next comes your cross elasticity of demand. Now we have some goods that are consumed together, or that can be consumed in place of one another, right? So the goods that are consumed together, for example, take the example of this remote, right? Batteries and this remote, they are consumed together. I cannot operate this remote without a battery. So for me, the battery and this remote, they are two complementary goods, right? I cannot work with this remote without a battery. Okay. On the other hand, for example, substitute goods. For example, a ballpoint pen and a pilot pen. For me, these are substitute goods. I can use one in place of another. Okay, so there are two kinds of goods, that is your substitutes and your complementary goods. Okay, and the cross elasticity of demand measures the proportionate change in the quantity demanded of X due to the proportionate change in the price of Y. That if price of one good changes, how will my quantity demand change for the other good? That's what your cross elasticity of demand actually measures. Okay, now for example, in this case, if the two goods are substitutes, right? So if the price of say ballpoint pen increases, right? So my consumption of say pilot pen would increase. That why will I spend more on ballpoint pen? So if this becomes relatively cheaper, why will I consume this? So a increase in price of my ballpoint pen, right, is increasing the quantity demanded of a pilot pen for me. So there is a positive relationship that is coming out. Okay, and as a result, the cross elasticity is positive in case of substitute goods, right? On the other hand, a complementary good, for example, the remote control and the batteries. Okay, so for example, if the price of batteries it increases, I will start consuming less of remote control. Vague example, but just imagine. Okay, so if my price of batteries is increasing, the quantity demanded of my remote control is falling, right? And this shows that there is a negative relationship and negative value of your cross elasticity. So if the value of cross elasticity is negative, then in that case the two goods are complements. On the other hand, there are unrelated goods as well. Unrelated goods in the sense that, say for example, a binder clip and a pilot pen. if the price of binder clip is increasing, decreasing, that will not change my demand for a pilot pen actually. So these two goods are completely unrelated. So the cross elasticity in this case will be 0, because a price change in a binder clip will not impact the quantity demanded of my pen. Okay, so when cross elasticity is 0, then in that case the goods are unrelated. Okay, last we have is your elasticity of substitution. Let me give you a technical definition first, and then we'll explain it in easier terms later. So please write down the technical definition of it, right? So this is the proportionate change in your relative demand of the two goods, right, to the proportionate change in their relative prices, that is represented by MRS, marginal rate of substitution. Heads up, marginal rate of substitution is also the slope of indifference curve. Moving back. Okay, now in easier terms, how can we explain this? That how easily one person can shift from one commodity to the other when the price of one commodity changes, keeping the production levels the same. So how easily you can shift from one commodity to another, right, when the price of, say, one commodity good X changes. Example, let me tell you. For me, a blue pilot pen and a red pilot pen are perfect substitutes. Okay, so if the price of blue pilot pen increases, I can easily shift to my red pilot pen. It will not matter to me whether I'm writing in blue or red, does not matter, right? So for me, the elasticity of substitution will be infinity, because I can easily, without any inconvenience, I can easily shift from blue to red, red to blue, right? It does not matter. I just want a cheaper commodity for it. So that is why elasticity of substitution is infinity for your perfect substitutes. Because even if in normal, day life, it does not matter to me whether I'm writing in blue, black, red. No, I just need a nice pen to write with. Okay. On the other hand, in case of perfect complements, for example, where is the remote? I cannot function, this remote without batteries. I need batteries with it. I cannot just substitute these batteries with anything else, right? So I need specific batteries designed for this remote control. Okay, so I cannot shift from one commodity to another easily. I cannot just shift to another remote control, or I cannot just substitute remote or substitute my batteries with any other thing, right? So for me, the elasticity of substitution will be 0 in this case, right? Because I cannot substitute batteries with anything else or any other remote, right? So that is why my elasticity of substitution is 0 for perfect complements, and elasticity of substitution is infinity for perfect substitutes. Okay, moving on now. So this was about your elasticities. Now moving on to the questions that were displayed at the beginning of this video. Question number 1, it was stated that we have a good X, right? We have a good X whose income elasticity is negative and price elasticity is positive. Okay, so there is a positive relationship between price and quantity demanded, but a negative relationship between income and quantity demanded. So which of the following is correct? By just the look of it, I can say first thing is inferior, and out of other thing, this price elasticity being positive means the good is a given good. Okay, so this Venn diagram is actually given that this is an inferior goods and this is a given good, So with this Venn diagram, we can easily, imply that all the given goods are inferior goods, but not all inferior goods are given goods. Okay. Moving on to the second question that was there. So when income rises, demand for good X falls. Okay. At the same time, when the price of good Y increases, the demand for good X increases. Now what is X? So basically this first statement implies that X is an inferior good, and this second statement implies that good X and Y are substitutes, because there is a positive cross elasticity of demand. Okay, so X is inferior and the two goods are substitute goods. Okay, and the last question was that now good X has negative income elasticity, right, and negative cross elasticity with income. Okay, so negative income elasticity means good is an inferior good, and negative cross elasticity with income means the good is a complementary good. Good X and Y are complementary. So that is your answer, that X is an inferior good and X and Y are complementary goods, that is they are consumed together, right? So with this we come to the end of the video. I hope you found this useful, the quiz was interesting and the concept became clear, right? So we'll come up with a different topic in the next video. Till then, take care, bye bye, and thank you for watching.